The White House is literally telling us that real videos of things that actually happened were AI generated. The videos of Joe Biden looking like a complete incompetent idiot were cheap fakes. Oh, those are just cheap fakes. Those are dishonestly edited. How they can even say this with a straight face when the videos that we're talking about are totally uncut, just straight up cell phone or broadcast footage of an event. Not a single cut, not a single edit, not a single manipulation, and yet they just say that
Welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. If you are new here, welcome. I appreciate you clicking on the video to watch it. And since you are here, I would love it if you would help me to grow this channel and hit that subscribe button now. And to those of you that are returning, welcome back. I truly do appreciate your continued support on my channel, and I hope that you are subscribed as well. So before we get into today's topic, I want to divulge just a little bit of a personality trait, if you will, about myself. I'm pretty laid back. It might not seem that way, but I really am. There's not a lot that makes me angry. There's not a lot that I get worked up about. Most things just roll off my back. I can handle a lot, and it doesn't even faze me. But something that really will get under my skin is when people talk to me like I'm stupid. It's just really something that will just immediately make me tense up, and I can kind of feel like my hair is going to burst into flames when people talk to me that way. So I find it absolutely baffling that there are so many people in this country right now who don't mind being talked to like they're stupid, who don't mind when someone says to them, what you are seeing with your own eyes is not actually real. Don't trust your senses. Don't trust the thing that you are experiencing and witnessing firsthand. It's not real. Just trust me when I tell you that what you are seeing is just not happening. And if someone tries to tell you that none of that is real and tells you that what you are witnessing right in front of you is not happening, first of all, don't let them make you question your own sanity. And second of all, question their motives. Why are they trying to tell you that what you are seeing is not real? And why are they trying to make you distrust yourself? And this is something that has been happening in abundance over the last couple of weeks. We can all acknowledge that there are countless clips of Joe Biden not being able to stand up straight, not being able to walk properly. He's falling over. He's wandering around. He's shaking hands with thin air. He's not able to get through a lot of sentences coherently. And this is not a new thing. You can acknowledge that, and you can also admit that you don't care, that you would rather vote for a vegetable than have Trump in office again. And that's fine, because at least at that point, you are being honest and you're not allowing someone to turn you into a liar, someone that's lying to the public, and not only that, lying to yourself. Because you can't deny that the current president is in a massive cognitive decline. This is not a political position. This is not about being Democrat or Republican. This is not the right versus the left. It just is what it is. But it just seems like as we get closer to the election, the media is just going off the rails more than usual and are literally trying to convince people that the countless gaffes, the stumbles, the falls, and other concerning behaviors from Joe Biden, that these are now just cheap fakes and none of it is real. So they're just going to continue to repeat the word cheap fake until you truly are so disconnected from what's happening right in front of you that you start to distrust what you're seeing with your own eyeballs. And honestly, I'm just so bewildered at the way that the media is choosing to handle this, because there's a number of ways that they could have chosen to address the issue that their leading candidate is just not with us 100%. I don't even know if he's with us like 8%, but the route that they have chosen to take on this issue is just pure gaslighting. And I know that that word has been just really overused, but if there was ever a scenario where that word would fit perfectly, it would be this one. And while there are so many clips that we could choose from to show this cognitive decline, to show the decline of this man who is clearly just struggling to stay upright, the specific event that seemed to just ignite this kind of response is of Joe Biden at this fundraising event, and it went viral. So we see him walk on stage, and he just appears to have a moment, if you want to call it that. Now, I'm not going to describe the video for you. I want you to look at it for yourself and tell me what you see. not a professional video. It looks like it came from someone's cell phone. It doesn't appear to have any editing. And I honestly think, in my non-expert opinion, that it would be a lot more difficult to make the clunky, like low quality, far away video footage from a camera on your phone look fake than it would be to fake a high quality professional video, because you actually have to be able to simulate how it looks when someone is holding it in their hand and simulate the grainy footage and try to make that whole situation look real. Anyway, that, like I said, is just my non-expert opinion, but what I saw, and I'm not influencing anybody else about what you're seeing, but you can tell me if our, perceptions of this event align. So Biden is standing in the middle of the stage. I think that's Jimmy Kimmel to his right and Obama is on his left. And he's just standing there. And apparently, it looks like he literally just froze and he just seems completely confused about where he is. And I mean, if you're in front of an audience and if you're aware of your surroundings, you know that you're supposed to engage with the crowd. As the person on stage, you're not in the audience, but you're on the stage. And by that factor alone, you know that people are there to see you and therefore you are expected to react. And I get that for people who are not comfortable on stage, you might have a moment where you freeze. And I get it. Getting up in front of people can be terrifying, but Joe Biden has been speaking in front of people for like 50 years. He was vice president. Okay, so this is not someone who is inexperienced in front of a crowd. So he's just standing there, totally frozen. And then he is completely unaware when it's time to leave the stage, so Obama reaches over and grabs his arm, which seems to snap Joe out of it, and then Obama turns Joe around, puts his arm right below his neck, and guides him off stage. He didn't just gently place his hand on his back and nudge him in a particular direction, like, hey, it's time to go, and like, drop his hand and let the man walk. He guides him the whole way. He keeps his hand up here, and then when it's time to turn him this way, he moves his hand right below his armpit and just keeps his hand there. It's a very firm grip. There's nothing gentle about it. There's nothing like I'm just suggesting what direction you're supposed to walk. This man is literally guiding him every step of the way. And it's kind of like when you have a child in your grasp, you're taking your child through the mall or through a crowd, and you want to keep them on a particular path. And you know that the second you move your hand, they might bolt or they might start wandering off in another direction. If you are a parent, if you have been in the vicinity of children at any time and you are responsible for them, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So that is what it comes across as to me. And you can let me know if you saw something completely different. I have had 20/20 vision my entire life, so I'm not feeling like my eyes need to get checked, but perhaps you saw something completely different. And I can understand maybe questioning it if this was like an isolated incident or if this was something that was only happening periodically, but this has been going on for years now. And again, this is not a political thing. It's not a political position to recognize when someone's health is declining. It's not a Democrat or Republican thing to say, hey, I don't need to be a medical expert to recognize signs that someone is experiencing Alzheimer's or at least dementia of some kind, which is an overarching term that says there's something going on with someone's cognitive abilities, but there hasn't been a specific condition like Alzheimer's diagnosed for this person. The signs there are undeniable, but the media is not only trying to deny the truth, they're trying to get everyone else to deny it themselves. So of course, KJP was asked about this situation as the White House press secretary. Of course, she's going to be asked about it. And in her ever intelligent and utterly articulate way of explaining things, she had this to say about it.
There were two instances in recent days where leaders, former President Obama and Georgia Maloney of Italy, they physically put hands on the president to guide him and show him, give stage directions. Are they doing that on their own, or has anybody asked them to run the show like that?
First of all, let me spoke to the most recent, right? And as we saw on Saturday, President Obama's office put out a statement. So I would refer you to that statement about what was being accused in those by others. And he said this did not happen in the sense of what people were saying they were seeing, right? Or what was being falsely reported that they were seeing. Let's not forget, President Obama, President Biden have a relationship. They are friends. They're like family to each other. And I think that's what you saw. You saw the president put his hand on the back of President Biden and they walked off the stage after taking questions or at an event taking questions from Jimmy Kimmel. That is what you saw.
So her approach is to counter what has been reported, but the thing is, it's not about what was reported. This isn't a secondhand account of what happened, which caused people to react this way. It was actual video footage. And the past relationship as president and vice president, or their current friendship now between Obama and Biden, has absolutely nothing to do with anything. She thinks if she can talk about these two in some context, then she can make it sound like she's actually answering the question. But she's not. It's just so bizarre. There was another incident recently where Joe and Jill were at a ceremony, I think to recognize the soldiers that landed in Normandy. I'm sorry if I have that completely wrong. I know it had something to do with Normandy. And Joe suddenly had to be escorted off stage. But before that happened, he appeared to be sitting on an invisible chair, and you can see Jill go like this. And I know that she's doing that to silently kind of instruct him, hey, there's no chair behind you. Hey, you need to stay standing, whatever it is. And I'm sure that she has been told, you know, if you see Joe doing something questionable, then you need to find a subtle way to direct him to not stand out in this way. So this, I believe, is the chair incident.
Distinguished guests, please welcome the Honorable Lloyd J. Austin.
And then for reasons that have yet to be explained, he had to be escorted quickly away from the ceremony, and then somebody else had to take over to greet the soldiers that were coming in, who would normally be greeted by the president. It's wild to me that this older gentleman here, who looks like he's over 100 years old, has a greater ability to endure this entire ceremony and to greet people and to shake hands with people more than our own president does. And of course, we need to get another response from KJP because she always has the best takes on these things. So this is what she had to say about the whole cheap fake thing and about the issue of the Normandy incident.
Ironically, several recent cheap fakes actually attack the president for thanking troops. That is what they're attacking the president for. Both in Normandy this happened, and again in Italy. And I think that it tells you everything that we need to know about how desperate Republicans are here. Instead of talking about the president's performance in office, and what I mean by that is his legislative wins.
Again, another straw man argument. Nobody is attacking the president for thanking troops. That isn't even in the conversation. And it's just interesting, if you have to paint the argument that way, knowing that no one is saying that, then you're the one that looks desperate. You're the one that knows that you don't have a leg to stand on. You're the one that knows that there is room for criticism here and there's room for concern about what is actually happening, because you have to twist things completely away from the issue at hand to even pretend like you understand what is going on. And when she talks about people being desperate, there is nobody more desperate right now than the Democrat Party, knowing that they have this man as their leading candidate, that they don't have anybody to replace him with, and just hoping and praying that they can keep him upright for at least another few months and then go from there. And as far as his legislative record, we talk about that all the time, KJP. The whole thing is just absolutely crazy, and they're trying to make us feel like we're crazy. To this point, I feel like they have largely tried to ignore things like Joe Biden falling up the stairs and falling off his bike while being stationary, the countless times that he has wandered off, most recently at the G7 summit, the speeches that he's given where suddenly he'll just launch into a tirade of things that don't make sense, and sometimes what he's saying just aren't even words. And there have been a concerning number of times where it is a serious question as to whether or not he has actually messed his pants in front of the cameras. And like I said, if this was just one or two times, I can see how maybe they might call into question the legitimacy of the footage. But sometimes, like the opening video said, sometimes these are live feeds. Sometimes these are live coverage of events that are happening that he is at in real time. And we are just clipping moments from those events of these things happening. So there is literally no room to be editing these things. And we're just playing back things that the entire country saw play out in real time. These are things from people's cell phones. These are things that are non-professionally captured videos. And still, they are the approach that they're taking is don't believe what you've seen with your own eyes. But despite the fact that these have gone largely ignored over the last couple of years and they've downplayed them as much as they can, now they know they can't downplay it. And so they're going into overdrive of this entirely being made up. And they are willing to tell people, like I said, to not trust their own senses, which, aside from having a president that is spiraling downward and a wife who has no problem with elder abuse, the media literally trying to convince people not to trust their own eyes is so completely problematic. But if KJP wasn't a good enough source for you, then Barbara Streisand wants to tell you not to believe the things that the New York Post is reporting about Biden and him freezing up at the LA fundraiser. Which is ironic considering there is something called the Streisand effect, which was actually named after Barbara Streisand, which is when you attempt to distract people from a particular story, or in this case, a photograph, and by doing so, you actually draw more attention to it. So just very interesting. So guys, you get the point. And there are a number of issues that we could look at and talk about that fall in line with this objective by the media, by the White House staff, by whoever else, to not believe what you see with your own eyes. And I have no idea how people have been so successful at getting their voting base to actually do this, to ignore what is happening right in front of their face, to pretend that the border isn't open, to pretend that crime in Democrat cities hasn't skyrocketed, to ignore the massive number of kids who are speaking out about the diabolically devastating effects of gender ideology and being pushed into medical treatments that destroyed their minds and bodies, to not accept things like the massive drop in the quality of life that we've seen, including inflation, taxes, drug overdoses, kids being denied an actual education, and to just believe when you're told things are fine. But now these people are just being absolutely brazen about it. They've taken something so blatantly obvious, like the undeniable cognitive state of this man, and said it's entirely political, that what you're watching and what your eyes and ears are showing you and telling you is completely made up, and you only believe these things if you align with a particular political party. But if you can acknowledge what is happening in this particular case, that's at least a small step in the right direction. And then maybe at that point, you'll be able to re-examine other things that you've been told aren't real, and then maybe do a little bit of digging to find out if you've been misled on those things as well. It's just a suggestion. I just have to say, reality isn't political. This is about maintaining your grip on reality and not letting anybody take that away from you. Anyway, I would love to hear all of your thoughts on this in the comments below. Please be sure to hit that like button. Make sure that you are subscribed. I'm sure that YouTube is actually going to really hate this video. Keep it real, guys. Keep it really real, guys. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.